So recently I compared the Pittsburgh Steelers to McDonald's because from a popularity standpoint, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers and McDonald's, both as franchises, are kind of similar. You know, there was a little bit of a cool factor that used to be there with McDonald's, and same thing with the Pittsburgh Steelers where it was cool to be a fan of the Steelers, you know, but nowadays, you know, it's more cooler to be a fan of the Chiefs, the Ravens, you know, the Browns are on the uprise and things like that. And you got restaurants like Chipotle on the rise. Meanwhile, McDonald's has kind of stayed about the same, you know, things like that. And like I said, the Steelers used to be far and away the standard and the best organization in all football, along with the Patriots. And maybe they're still amongst the best, but the gap between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the rest of the NFL regarding organizations, the gap isn't as wide as it used to be. And here's the reality of the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers Super Bowl window has closed. Heading into 2021, I don't consider the Pittsburgh Steelers to be a Super Bowl contender. In fact, I won't be surprised if they miss the playoffs. Now, last year the Pittsburgh Steelers, at one point, they looked like an elite team. They looked like a team that could potentially challenge Kansas City or Tampa Bay. But at the end of the year, they just kind of ran out of gas, and there just didn't seem to be enough juice within the franchise, you know? And maybe you can make the argument this team has kind of peaked under Mike Tomlin. Like, I get it. It's hard to fire a guy like Mike Tomlin, but they haven't won a Super Bowl in over a decade with Mike Tomlin as the head coach, and they've had some talented teams. Let's not act like the Pittsburgh Steelers organization hasn't put good players in Mike Tomlin's lap. He's had talent. Ben Roethlisberger's been there throughout that whole time. Hall of Fame quarterback. Okay? And the reality is the division has even caught up to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The AFC North is as good as it's ever been from top to bottom. The Cincinnati Bengals aren't going to make the playoffs right now, this year in 2021, but they're a real competitive football team with a real quarterback in Joe Burrow. They got some real weapons. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon. Those guys can play. Cincinnati is no longer a pushover, okay? Look at Baltimore. Baltimore has an MVP-level quarterback in Lamar Jackson, a great coaching staff. They've even invested in the wide receiver corps. Baltimore's a real threat to win the Super Bowl potentially this year. And you look at Cleveland, I don't think there's a single weakness on their roster. And years ago, Cleveland was awful. But now they're better, in my opinion, right now today than the Steelers. They're more talented. That's the harsh reality. At the end of the year, last year in the playoffs, we saw Cleveland and Pittsburgh face off. Cleveland was the better team at the end of the year. Okay? Now, are the Pittsburgh Steelers in a rebuilding stage? I don't think so, because organizations like the Steelers, they don't rebuild. They're too well-run of an organization to a point where they're not going to be a team that rebuilds once things go south. They're a team that's going to retool. So I think right now we're at a point where the Steelers are kind of retooling things. Like, they're trying to get the offensive line fixed. You know, we're trying to figure out who's the successor to Ben Roethlisberger. Is it Dwayne Haskins? I think it is, but I could be totally wrong. Maybe they draft a quarterback. Maybe they sign a quarterback. Hey, maybe Aaron Rodgers is available for the Steelers going forward. But right now, today, as far as quarterback and head coach combination, I think the Baltimore Ravens have a better head coach and quarterback combination right now today. Same thing with Cleveland. I think Kevin Stefanski is a real head coach. I don't think he's a fluke. I think Baker Mayfield is ascending, whereas Ben Roethlisberger is descending. At the end of the year, it seems like Baker Mayfield was the better quarterback compared to Ben Roethlisberger. Okay, and in a couple of years, I could see Cincinnati, if they fix their defensive issues and their offensive line, they could be a real team. So I think the Steelers had a great run the last 10 to 11 or 12 years where they got to a few Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl, but the reality is I think Pittsburgh, they just don't have enough juice today right now. I don't think they're a top 10 team. I think they're in a retooling stage, and that's where I'm at with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their Super Bowl window is closed. We shall see when it opens. Once again, I will keep you guys updated, as always, but that's how I feel right now about the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.